Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the League Racing TV YouTube channel for round 7 of the first season of the EML Formula 1 No Assists League. My name is Aidan Carter, otherwise known as Car Mentalist. I'll be taking you through proceedings as per usual on a Wednesday evening, and joining me once again in the commentary box this evening is Pepsi Freak. Pepsi, how are you doing this evening?
It's good to be back with you, Car. It's great to see you, and I'm glad to be back here after that 1 week break, and hopefully we have another good couple rounds here.
Yeah, fingers crossed we do get another couple of good rounds. Like you say, we have had a week off. It was Silverstone 2 weeks ago where we had our... No, it wasn't Silverstone, sorry. I'm completely losing my mind today.
It was
Austria. It was Austria 2 weeks ago. I've already made this mistake before we even started streaming. I'm losing my mind today. But it was Austria a couple of weeks ago. It was a very, very enthralling race from start to finish, really. Incidents aplenty, many talking points throughout that race. But the big talking point coming out of that round was the new championship lead that Amazing Hour has after winning this time last week. He now has a 24-point championship lead, which I think is the biggest championship lead we've had at any point in this EML Formula 1 season. So heading into Spa, 7th round of the season, we're getting into the latter stages of the championship now. I think only 3 rounds to go once this round is complete. So
yes, I will quickly pull up the calendar here, but we have Italy, Singapore, and Brazil. But right now, I just want to point this out there's still no Amazing Hour, and it is, it's 3 o'clock on my time zone, but it's 8 o'clock on yours. So no sign of Amazing Hour yet, so unless he's running late for quali, this is what Harry, who's second in the standings at 91 points, and even Short, who missed last week's round at Austria, are looking to see, because after Amazing Hour's great performance last week where Harry kind of threw it away a little bit and Short not being able to show up, this is a good chance for the field to kind of re-close up and not let Amazing Hour get too far. But we don't know where Amazing Hour is. He could be just popping in any second right now. Oh, there he is. Never mind. No, it's Young Power. My mistake. His teammate. Oh, that's the Renault driver. Oh, I'm making mistakes just like you. That week break has really thrown me off as well.
Yeah, just another thing as well, just to make sure that you go into spectator mode before we get going as well.
That's another problem.
Yeah,
I'm definitely rusty. All right.
It's been a long 2 weeks, but yeah, we're back into it now, and definitely, like I say, M. Short obviously missed the round a couple of weeks ago at Austria, and unfortunately he had held the championship lead for the majority of the season up until that point, but missing out last week, especially with Amazing Hour winning as well last week.
Plus,
so what I don't want to cut you off. I just want to grid.
Yeah, ninth on the grid. I just want to cut you off because I did want to point this out there. Remember, he also had internet problems at Britain as well, so he's had 2 dud rounds in a row. So just wanted to bring that up there.
Yeah, he really has had 2 dud rounds in a row. It's not been great for M. Short, who started off the season pretty well. I think he's still yet as well, even though he led the championship for the majority of the first half of the season, hasn't yet won a race still. It's still not come to him in that sense of things. He's been in the top 5 when he's not had internet problems. He's been in the top 5 in pretty much every round he's competed in. The problem for M. Short, though, is it seems to be his qualifying pace doesn't necessarily translate into race pace.
Yeah, what also is shocking, he only has 2 podiums to his name so far in this calendar as well, which is very interesting indeed. You think a driver that was leading the point standings through 4 rounds after Canada, he only had 2 podiums, and the last 2 rounds he had some duds. You think he'd have a few more podiums to his name. But being still so close, it just shows that partially the rest of the field's kind of had some issues as well, where consistency has been a thing. So in any other year where a driver's been really consistent, that may hurt Short. But right now, with a lot of the other drivers kind of having the same up week, down week, he could really keep Short in this fight. So if there's a round now, if Amazing Hour does not show up, this is a round where he definitely wants to win because he could take back over the points lead with a win.
He definitely could, yeah. Like you say, it has been a case a lot this season where people just aren't getting the best out of their full season. Even Amazing Hour has fallen foul of that so far this season, obviously missing out on a win at the very first round of the season, throwing the car in the wall fairly early on into that race, costing him a big opportunity at Australia. Just thinking back to other races as well, Canada, another one, where he really lost out on the pit stop strategies and went for a strategy that just didn't work. So no one has really been able to find that consistent flow throughout the season, you've got to say, for all sorts of different reasons, whether it's been bad luck, whether it's been incidents, whether it's been non-attendance, that kind of thing. It really has been a mix throughout the field as to why people just haven't had the best season so far. We're just going to run you quickly through the full standings then as it stands at the moment. So like I said, Amazing Hour leads the way over Harry B by 24 points. Harry B hasn't taken part in the full season. He's only just recently become a full-time driver, so look out for him for the rest of the season. M. Short drops to 3rd. He's on 84 points. He's only 7 points behind Harry B. Young Power up to 4th now after a number of good results in a row for the Renault driver. He's on 78 points, 75 points for TTG Venom, who had his first podium last time out, since the very first round of the season. Creaser is running at the moment in 6th in the championship ahead of Jirazi, Neo, Zaldama and Hercules. Hercules, the other driver on the podium this time last week. He's a reserve driver, but he holds 10th in the standings. Below him, TTG Vettel is in 11th ahead of Scott Bugner, Charlie Harris, Verderana and John are the noticeable drivers that are all full-time riders that have scored points so far this season. So that's just a quick brief run through of what the standings has been so far. And you've got to say, probably one of the bigger stories of the people that haven't maybe performed at their best of their abilities is Venom's, isn't it? He's had so much raw speed and so much talent throughout the season, but just hasn't really been able to get in the good results.
Well, remember, at Britain, he was a very fast driver and just pedallies doomed him, and that cost him, like, similar to what happened to Young Power at Canada. And then at the next round at Austria, he was doing pretty well as well and just made a mistake, and he was just in that little train, and then that cost him with pedallies as well. He got 3, and then I think he got 6. So that cost him any chance at a victory. So right now, he's his own worst enemy because he'd have 2 wins if he could keep it clean. But with Belgium, this is a track where only a Rouge is where it's really easy to cut. Other than that, the rest of the circuit's kind of relatively easy on corner cutting, so we wouldn't see too many pedalies, but if he can keep his foot clean and keep from pedalies stacking up, I think he's on well pace to get at least 1 victory. But with only 4 rounds to go, he really needs to put it together now, or else he's going to be on the outside looking in.
Yeah, and it's been a bit bizarre, really, because when Venoms has been here, he's more than had the match for Amazing Hour, who, by the way, has just joined the lobby, which is great to see, our championship leader in, but at the races we've been to, it's been fairly level pegging between the 2 Mercedes drivers throughout the season, and you've got to say, sometimes on raw speed, Venom seems to have had the edge a little bit on Amazing Hour, but Amazing Hour is able to pull in those results when he's not having the best of days. I think last week is a prime example, 2 weeks ago, sorry, is a prime example of that, where he qualified only 9th on the grid and was doomed, really, at the start of the race, but managed to recover really, really well in the actual race conditions. So that's kind of what set those 2 Mercedes drivers apart so far this season. But another person we've got to talk about as a real championship threat now is Harry B, isn't it? He wasn't a full-time driver at the start of the season, was only reserve, only recently got a full-time seat in that Renault car, but has performed incredibly well over the past 2 rounds. Austria obviously didn't get the best result he could have got from that race, but even so, he's just been on the up in the past few rounds, hasn't he?
He has, and that's a situation where form and momentum really help you there. I know it's a situation where people think, oh, momentum's not really a thing that happens in racing, but if you string together good performances and string together good results, it really helps you in races. And the same thing in the reverse. If you have multiple rounds where you crash out or throw away victories, it's hard to get that monkey off your back. So it's a situation right now, Harry is kind of in good form, or he's got, basically, if this was a FIFA FUT card, he'd have an inform card while Venom would not have one because of his form being bad, but he's always looking out for one.
Yeah, exactly. Like I say, getting that monkey off your back if you're having a few bad rounds in a row is really, really difficult to do. Harry B has been right at the front of the field, already a race winner so far this season, won obviously in Canada when he was still a reserve driver. First race as a full-time driver was at Silverstone.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, I thought he won Britain, but no, that was actually his teammate, so yeah, my mistake. Yeah, he won Canada.
Yeah, won Canada, and then Silverstone was his first time as a full-time driver in that Renault, and obviously that was when Renault got their 1-2, and the only 1-2 from a team so far this season. So it's been a real good last few rounds really for Harry B. Unfortunately, obviously, like we mentioned just before the start of the stream, actually, that Harry B had a bit of an aggressive race last time out at Austria, and it didn't in the end really pay dividends for him. Didn't get the best result from that race, but was still able to score some handy points and put himself now up into second. So that is no mean feat for a driver that wasn't a full-time driver at the start of the season.
100% indeed. He's already put himself in a hole. I'm reminded of another league I did where a driver came in after 4 rounds, and he was starting off a little bit slow, then he won 6 races, and then at the end at Suzuka, where it was a title fight between the two of them, he was about 18 points out, and he almost won the championship, but just that early hole cost him, and then 1 or 2 rounds where he made a mistake. So if Harry could pull this out, you can't discredit this as a Mickey Mouse championship, as someone the social medias would like to say, among other things. It's a situation where he actually deserved this championship because he came in with a hole and was able to dig out of it.
Yeah, and he's definitely dug out that hole so far. To be second in the championship, considering he wasn't a full-time at the start, is a really, really great feat for him to hold at the moment, and that should obviously help his confidence going forwards. But looking into the present, and we are at Spa. I'm mixing Spa and Belgium together and making Bar. So we're now at this. I've renamed the circuit to Bar.
BAR may be on the track.
Maybe we've gone back about 10 or 15 years in time in Formula 1. Anyway, we are at Spa, the circuit Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. Obviously, honestly one of the, if not the most iconic track on the Formula 1 calendar. This one is longest track on the calendar as well. Really, really iconic track with a load of iconic overtaking opportunities, amazing corners, amazing corner names as well. This circuit really is a favourite amongst the drivers, isn't it?
Personally, it's a favorite among drivers. Personally, I don't like this track in this game that much. It was one of those tracks in the early games where I was fast. I got my first pole in a league race here, but then as it's gone on and the engine has changed, for some reason I've just gotten slower and slower and slower. It's not my worst track, but it's a track where it's like, oh, between this, I remember, again, to go back to the league, there was a vote between Belgium and Japan. I was like, oh, Japan 100%.
I would probably agree with you, honestly. I feel like I'm the same. I think Belgium is a track, it's so difficult to master this circuit because of how long the track is. And the first and third sector are fairly similar in nature in the fact that they're pretty much intensely high speed apart from one or two corners. But the middle sector is so crucial to the lap. You kind of have to compromise your middle sector to get the fastest car in a straight line around this track, and that can be really difficult to manage. It's kind of the challenge of this circuit, is being able to find a setup that perfectly balances that compromise of having something that's fast in a straight line and nimble in the middle part of the lap as well. We're going to run aboard though with Margalit, who is in the Racing Point. He is a reserve driver, I believe his first race of the season. He'll be taking part in the Racing Point today. He's the first person to set a lap around the longest circuit on the Formula 1 calendar. So let's see what he can do in that Racing Point. So he heads down towards turn 1, the La Source hairpin, bit of a lock-up on the way into that corner. Doesn't quite hit the apex, but gets a good enough run out of the corner. Now it is completely flat out all the way up to the end of the first sector. Heads down into Radion, down into Eau Rouge and up through Radion, then over the crest of Radion and then down the Kemmel Straight. A great overtaking opportunity this one is. A little bit of a kink as we head now down through DRS zone. 2 DRS zones on this track. This is the second one after the pit straight into the Les Combes chicane, braking just before the 50-meter board. Gets the car turned in nicely out to the exit of that chicane and now in through Malmedy. Curb extended on this game, so it's a lot easier to run a bit wider at that corner. Downhill hairpin there, really easy, as just proven there, to lock up that inside front corner into the corner with no name. A 90-degree corner that drops downhill section in towards Pouon, which is now probably the most difficult corner on the track to master. Don't hit that inside curb. A little bit of mid-corner understeer from the Racing Point. Didn't quite get the car turned in for the first part. Now Fania chicane, Amazing Hour just moving out of the way of the Racing Point driver quite nicely there, and again just getting a little bit sideways on the curb on the inside. Now down into Savlo and curve Paul Frere. The end of the second sector is now done. 13.3 from the Racing Point man. It's not been the neatest lap so far, definitely left a lot of time on the table so far. Into the third sector, he's gone through curve Paul Frere up towards Blanchimont. Easily flat out corner this one is in modern Formula 1 cars, no problem whatsoever. Don't touch the curb on the inside because it will spin you out. And now just getting ready for the braking point of the bus stop chicane, just after the 100-meter board there for the Racing Point driver. Doesn't quite hit the curb on either parts of the bus stop chicane. It's a neat and tidy lap. Wasn't the fastest, but it's going to be a banker lap nonetheless. Crosses the line and a 41.3 to start off the session for the Racing Point driver. But just based on the time he did there and how a little bit that scruffy that lap was, you've got to say that it's pretty safe to say we're going to be seeing drivers maybe in the mid 1-minute 40s by the end of the session, as Harry B drops into a 141.2 to go nearly 2 tenths clear.
I think Chappelle may be going slow, or did Chappelle? No, Chappelle actually did lose it off the long sweeping right in sector 2 there. He's lost, he just went too wide, and that's an example where you can go too wide, like you were saying on your lap. If you go just a little bit too close, it's a very hard corner indeed. But something else I do want to point up is the run-up to a Rouge, especially this being a no-traction lead. I feel like one driver will lose it going up a Rouge, because it's just very easy in this game, where if you just don't get the power right, you're just going to go the wrong around similar to Magnussen in 2016 and end up in the tire barrier.
Yeah, very easy to do at the start of the race as well on high fuel loads as the car bottoms out coming up that hill. Very easy to lose the car, and especially in wet conditions as well. If we do have some sort of wet weather in the race, that corner is incredibly treacherous in those conditions. Just seeing who else is on lap at the moment. Stradozzi, reserve driver in the AlphaTauri today. Let's see what he can do. He's raced a couple of times so far this season, has had some decent results. Vettel P4 on a 141.5. Stradozzi crosses the line, goes P5 on a 41.8. So no one quite into the 1-minute 40s just yet. But M Short on his return though, currently on provisional pole position. We'll wait and see what Amazing Hour can do, currently on a lap in the Mercedes. He's just coming through the final sector now. I think he'll be one of the last people to set his first run in qualifying. One of the Haas cars is on a lap. I think that is Charlie Harris, but he has backed off quite considerably going into the bus stop chicane, so it looks like he's probably made a mistake somewhere on his first one. Amazing Hour into the bus stop chicane now, cuts through the first part quite nicely, into the second part, make sure that the Coutinho doesn't get in his way, I believe, in the AlphaTauri. Up to the line comes Amazing Hour, crosses the line, only
P3.
41.3. Yeah, 41.3. It's still a banker lap, so we've still got a way to go in the session, but 0.3 of a second off M-Short. We've seen this a few times this season where M-Short seems to have the edge in qualifying.
Yep, but it just hasn't really translated in the race where he's been fast. It's just either he's made a bad mistake in strategy or it's a situation where internet problems have doomed him. But he is a fast driver, and I do think as the track gets more rubbered, we'll definitely see someone break into the 140. So I don't think Short is safe by any means or any stretch of the imagination.
No, I wouldn't imagine so. Definitely with a track this long, track evolution is going to play a major part in this session, so look out for that. Coutinho on another run, another driver who's very fast but just hasn't met his potential so far this season. Obviously didn't take part in the first 4 rounds of the championship. 5th round was his first attempt at this championship, but even so, he's been battling in top 5 positions and just has never really got the result in, as up to the time board TL44S, another new driver in the Williams as reserve driver tonight, 41.8 on the second lap on the same set of tyres. Coutinho has invalidated another run on the same set of tyres, so he won't be improving on that current P13 slot. Young Power, a race winner so far this season as well, currently 4th in the standings. Yeah, has invalidated 13.3 at the end of the second sector, would have put him level pegging around where Amazing Hour was, so it wouldn't have really challenged M-Short right at the front of the field. So a lot of drivers, you mentioned earlier on, it's fairly easy to keep the car on the road. Seems to be a lot of drivers here are pushing very hard to try and find any bit of lap time they can.
Well, with a 2-minute lap, not 2-minute lap, that's if it's raining, but a 1-minute 40 lap here is a situation where it's such a long lap here. Again, one mistake kind of dooms you, because remember, since being one of the longest tracks, it takes about a 1:40 to get around the circuit, do a lap, and it takes about 2 minutes in and out laps. So by the time you get a back around the pit lane to change your tires like Power's doing right now, after making that mistake, you've already spent probably about 6 minutes on surface, and with only about 18 minutes, you get 3 good attempts at making a run. And if you're a driver like Young Power that's invalidated, that's one mulligan gone, and now you have 2 more attempts to try to do it. And if you make another mistake, at what point do you say, I just got to put a time down instead of going for a pole run?
Yeah, exactly. That's why a lot of drivers you'll see, especially when we were on board with Marjorie in the Racing Point, he wasn't really pushing the extremities of the track, just trying to get a banker lap in so that he can improve from there. At least somewhat keeps him off the bottom end of the grid. His Racing Point teammate at the moment, Krisa, a podium sitter so far this season as well in Baku, had a strong performance this time last week as well. Austria has this time 2 weeks ago at Austria had a pretty strong performance as well. Was running in the top 5 for the majority of that race. Just the late race changes in position didn't really help him. He wasn't quite able to keep up, having stayed out with the final safety car restart. It just didn't pay dividends for him. 13.1 at the end of the second sector, despite that bit of a slide through Pouon. So it's been a good lap so far from the Racing Point, who has somewhat improved from the early phases of this championship. Could we see him as a late contender in this series? His Racing Point teammate moves out the way quite nicely there as he heads up towards the bus stop chicane. He's got one of the Red Bulls just in front of him, who I believe that is Neo, I think, on an outlap, just coming to start his first run in qualifying. Krisa comes up towards the line then. Let's see where he can put that Racing Point as he crosses. Goes P2 on a 41.1. A good lap time for the Racing Point. Manu continues to bump himself up the field.
That is indeed. And right now, go back to standings here. He is P6 in the standings at 71 points, only 4 points behind Venom. I think that's 4 points behind Venom, so I don't consider him out yet, but like I said, he also has to get a move on. Right now, if you're in the 70s right now, you need to get a good performance here and hope our current points at Amazing Hour spontaneously combusts or his engine decides to go kapooey down the straight, because it's your only real chance to get back in the championship. Because if Amazing Hour keeps racking up podiums, any chance you really jump back in this is probably gone. But never say never in these leagues, because like I said, it looked like it was going to be Short and Amazing Hour fighting, then Short had 2 bad rounds. And now Harry's here as well, who's a reserve driver, and is only 24 points back. So if Amazing Hour has a bad round here, that's going to allow everyone to catch back up.
Yeah, going to give him a great opportunity. We see how big the championship lead is now between Amazing Hour and Harry B. You would expect that to be after a few rounds of domination from Amazing Hour, but it's only really been one. That is just the kind of the extremities of the point system we have here. Marjolate in the Racing Point is on another run. He had a lovely toe down the Kemmel Straight from Creaser, so that will work quite nicely. It was a 10th.5 up in the first sector because of it. See how he's been able to improve in the middle part of the lap, if he has been able to. 13 flat, but he invalidates there coming out of Stavolo, so that time is not going to be valid for him. He's not going to be able to improve, but a 13 flat at the end of the second sector would have put him right up there with his teammate, maybe just ahead of him. M-Short is on a lap, but he's also invalidated.
Yeah.
So a lot of people finding it very difficult to keep the car on the road. Harry B's on another run, but his first sector is not as competitive as either of the Racing Points.
Neo P2.
Yeah.
141, fun 5-2 in the Red Bull. So, again, maybe, I don't want to say we counter jigs for a head shot. I still think someone will break into the 140s with 7 minutes to go. But right now, no one's really been able to do that quite yet. But with Amazing Hour on a run along with Harry, but Harry's invalidated. But with Amazing Hour on a run here, I think, again, we'll see where he slots into the end of Sector 1 here. It's going to be he's up on his time, but not a purple Sector 1. But he's also got a little bit of problem with Young Power ahead of him. Hopefully he gets out of the way relatively quickly.
Yeah, meanwhile, Zaldam are now up into P2 in the other Red Bull, so it's an XL and Red Bull 2-3 at the moment. A team that had a lot of potential coming into the season, but just haven't really been able to live up to the hype. They've not by any stretch had bad races, but they've just not been challenging for race victories like we maybe expected them to be going into this season. I think one of the AlphaTauris has had a moment coming out of Puon. Didn't quite see which one it was. I think it may have been Coutinho on a lap. Amazing Hour that's cut him through the middle part of the lap to see if he is improving. Harry B has him. Yeah, Harry B's invalidated his run as well, so no one really in the original top 4. Look at that middle sector though from Amazing Hour. 3.5 tenths up at 12.8. Brilliant middle sector from the Mercedes driver, so maybe that first lap was just a banker to get something on the board to see if he can nail the bus stop chicane and whether he can get that car onto the front of the grid alongside one of his championship rivals. Comes up towards the braking zone for the final 2 corners, a little bit deep, has to go into first gear to slow the car down, but it gets the car out of the chicane nicely up towards the line, and it is a 41
it was almost a 140. It was almost a 140. I thought we had a first 140 there, but sadly, Amazing Hour can't get over it. That is a pole run, and he's just barely ahead of M Short. Now M Short knows he probably has to go out there again. But something that is crossed my mind here is if you're a driver, let's say like the Williams driver who's currently on his run here, TTL 445 or Charlie Harris, at what point do you say, all right, I'm going to start maybe 10th or 11th, why not start on the hard set of compounded tires? Because unlike in other circuits where it's advantage where you want to set it soft, here's a circuit where you really kind of want to start on those harder compound, and because it gives you more advantages. Harry almost loses in the last corner there on his invalidated lap. But it is a thought that pops in my head. At what point do you just say, all right, I'm going to start 10th or 11th? That's better than being in the top 10 and being on a set of softs.
Yeah, it's definitely, especially if you're going to qualify 10th, then you may as well want to try and start 11th and be on that alternate strategy. Like you say, around this track, soft-medium is fairly easy to accomplish, so it's not exactly like the gap between the softs and the mediums at the start are going to be big in any stretch of the way. TL44S is coming up to complete his next run in qualifying, 41.3, so goes P7, a pretty competitive time, improves quite heavily on his first run in the session as well, so that is a good enough time to put him right in the thick of the battle at the front of the field. For the longest track on the calendar, it's less than 4 tenths, covers first down to 8th at the moment, so it's still incredibly close throughout the field. Young Power as well, still yet to set a representative time. A 12.9 by the end of the second sector though is right up there with what we saw both M Short and Amazing Hour pull off. So if we can see what his final sector is like, whether he is able to get in and amongst the top 2 at the moment. Amazing Hour was about a 10th up on Young Power at this point in the lap, so this is a good gauge of whether we can see if Amazing Hour's gone for something that's a little bit more downforce centric or whether he's gone for something a little bit more in a straight line.
In.
Wow.
Power was on a lap there too, so I kind of shocked he pulls in here. He's got 3 minutes to go, so maybe he didn't feel like, because if he crossed that line now, he wouldn't have another run. So maybe he's just thinking, all right, I want fresh tires, I want on the depth of it, so let me just take a risk here. Because that lap probably would have put him P2 or P3, but knowing that right now the top 4 are currently in pit lane, and the only driver out there in the top 10 that's currently not out there, the only 2 drivers that are not currently out there on a lap right now are Kaiser and TLR 445, and 445's coming in, and Kaiser's actually on a flyer, so strategy, basically.
Yeah, definitely strategy. Giving himself an opportunity to try and improve even further on the run he was pulling off, but it does leave him at risk, like you say, of invalidating his final run and not getting in a time at all. Nightshades has also started his final run in qualifying. We'll ride with Creaser though and see what he can do. 9,000s up in the first part of the lap, so not really much to note there. That's more really just about the run out of La Source than anything else. Is that first sector. This time through Puon much neater, so that will have gained him at least a 10th or so through that part of the lap. It lets him carry a bit more momentum up in towards the Fanny chicane, but he turns in far too early there for the first part of that chicane and invalidates on the inside.
Yep, now he's got to conserve because he's not going to have enough time to. If he speeds up now and gets to pit lane, he may have a chance, but not. It's going to be close. So it's better just to conserve right now, save your rubber, and get one more run at it because that's what he's probably going to do here. Because what's worth noting, but yeah, Harry out and out lap, and both Red Bulls as well. So they're going for the final runs, but we'll see how they do short. Along with Amazing Hour, only driver that has not gone out yet is Short. So he's probably waiting just a bit longer, but he's got about 30 seconds. He's going to have to head out now, or else he's going to be out of luck.
Yeah, you don't want to leave it too late, like you say, and just end up coming out a little bit too late in the session. Creaser is backing right off. He's saved up his ERS once again. The good thing for Creaser is at least around this track, running a second lap on the softs isn't as detrimental as it is at other places. You won't be punished too heavily for it because the tyre wear around this track isn't too heavy, so you should be okay to pull that off if you can find a bit more pace on that second run. Pretty much everyone is back out on the track. TL44S has just made it out of the pit lane. That is going to be right on the bubble as to whether he can do a time or not. Charlie Harris has not made it out in time, so he will not be setting a time.
Both
neither
Haas drivers aren't.
Yeah, neither is Scott
both
Bugner.
Haas drivers. Yeah, so that's kind of shocking. I think Berger's even made an attempt, I don't think. So maybe he just wants to start in the back here. That's a strategy as well, but it's not a conventional strategy. Maybe just survive corner one. Like in rookie lobbies or unranked lobbies, just survive. That's where you want to make your effort.
Possibly, yeah. We're just seeing people now starting their final run. Chapelele has just started his final run in the McLaren. He has great raw speed as the McLaren driver, just hasn't been able to keep the car on the road in race conditions, and so far in qualifying has already had a spin, so it's not been a great start to the day once again for the McLaren driver as he heads down towards the end of the first sector. 29.8 is still pretty representative, but he missed the apex there of the inside of the first part of Lacombe and run pretty wide through the second part as well, so just a lot of mid-corner understeer for that McLaren. Doesn't seem like he's got that car very dialed in for this circuit at the moment. I think the furthest person along on a lap at the moment is Marjolit, I believe. Actually, no, it is, sorry. It is going to be Chapelele, I think, that's going to be the first person to finish a time in this session.
Kaiser. Kaiser, remember, he did slow down.
Yeah.
He's ahead of Chapelle. So he's currently through Sector 2 right now, but kind of running about with him. He's running about the same lap he did on the when he first set that time, so he's not really improved that much. We'll see where he runs at the end of Sector 2 here. We'll see where he's on the splits. He is up. That is a purple Sector 2 according to my screen, so he could be looking for a 140 here. He's going to have the long run down. He's going to be coming up to Blanchimount here. You want to keep your foot flat here, but don't want to get too close or else that will invalidate. Hey, we'll see how he comes here. How close will he get? Oh, he gets as close as possible, gets a good entry. Now he's going to go for the last couple corners of the chicane. Going to break about the 100-meter board a little bit earlier. Here we come. Session is ended, so this is it. This is the death of qualifying. On the exit, no, he opened up DRS, no bad traction. It's going to be a run. It's going to be a 149.64. That is a pole run. And next up is Chapelle. Can Chapelle do something? Or no, he's invalidated, so he is not going to improve. His teammate behind him will put down a 141.0055.
Yeah, so Racing Point 1-4 at the moment, and that's considering that's on his second lap on the tyres. That is a brilliant lap time from Creases to go into provisional pole. The two Red Bulls will be next, and Zaldama is flying on a lap at the moment. 2.5 tenths up as he heads into the final sector. See if he can put that Red Bull on pole position for the first time this season. Comes out of the final corner up towards the line. Where can he put that Red Bull? He goes pole. Wow, a stunning final sector from Zaldama. Neo comes up to the line. No, doesn't improve at all.
I thought he said improve, but regardless, not going to improve enough. Harry up next. Harry's up well enough here. It's going to be, just barely P2. Next we got up is the Mercedes. I think that's Amazing Hour. Yep, through the last couple quarters, it says he's down on his time, though, so it doesn't look like it will be an improvement. Here he comes to the line. It's going to be a 148.64. That will put him P3, and that will bump Kaiser down to P4, which makes me think if Kaiser had some fresh rubber, would he have been able to get a pole run out of that car with the one lap tire difference?
It definitely seems possible. M Short now on a lap as well, coming up to the bus stop chicane. Was the pole sitter very early on. Hasn't been able to improve on his first run. Can he put himself back onto provisional pole? It's going to have to be a stunning final sector. Crosses the line. He's not quite able to do it. He goes just ahead.
And Young Power P2.
Wow, on his final run as well. Was Worth then coming into the pit lane at the end of that run. He was just on to put himself onto the front row. It's a Renault 2-3. But of all people on pole position, Zaldama on pole position for Red Bull. First Red Bull pole this season. And you've got to say, coming into the season as well, it seems like Neo is the faster of the Red Bull drivers. But Zaldama on pole, Neo 9th. That is a turn up for the books. First Red Bull pole of the season. But I will say, look how close it is from first all the way down to Neo in 9th. It's just under 4 tenths of a second.
I do remember, I'm getting shades of Silverstone where all the drivers are very close here, but I'm reminded that, remember, Zuma was kind of fast. He was leading the standings, and the only reason why it's so close in the standings right now is he did miss last round while Nia was here. So I don't want to sell Zunamita too short in his abilities. He's a pretty alright driver. But, a bit of a shock here. It was not on my bingo card for pole run here, but props still to the Red Bull driver getting a pole here, but can he execute in the race is the question.
That is definitely the question. First Red Bull pole of the season, though. They'll definitely be happy with that. Zaldama on pole by 200ths of a second in the end. Incredibly close at the longest track on the calendar. Young Power second, Harry B third. Once again, the Renault drivers right up there in qualifying. Can they convert it in the race once again? We know Young Power and Harry B have incredible race pace. M Short qualifies fourth, just ahead of the championship leader, Amazing Hour, who is behind both of his closest championship rivals. Creaser in sixth ahead of Coutinho seventh. Marjolit is in eighth ahead of Neo and TL44, who rounds off the top 10. Vettel in 11th place ahead of Stradozzi, Nightshades, Charlie Harris and Chapelele, the two drivers at the back of the field, didn't set times in the end. Charlie Harris didn't set a representative time in the session either. Looked like he was running with a lot more fuel in the car, maybe getting some race runs in because he didn't think he was going to qualify inside the top 10. So that is the full grid for you. Looks like a fairly regular top 10. It's the drivers you would expect to be inside the top 10.
Oh,
and
it's
this spices
raining,
it up.
folks. Oh, and remember, Park Permit is on, so these cars, if they did not check the weather, they may have a dry setup for a wet track, and this is going to be chaos. I should not be showing this much bias, but this is going to be fun.
It's definitely going to be fun. I mean, I'm amazed I didn't mention it at the start that Spa usually ends up having some sort of weather interference, but yeah.
I mean, I remember from the league I did Monday on the League Racing TV channel. I was doing it with Dragon for CWC, and it was started off with some dry conditions, and then it became started raining, but it was not wet enough to go to intermediates. So a situation with the safety car where do you pit for intermediates or do you stay on the medium tire? And hopefully with more rain here, we may have a double bang for your buck here.
Definitely looks like it. It's definitely going to be wet enough for intermediate tyres. It doesn't look like there's really any standing water on the track, so it looks like we may be fairly early on in the rain cycle. It depends on now, really, whether it gets heavier or whether it gets lighter throughout the race. And like you say as well, it's very crucial now for setups. Did drivers go for a drier setup to try and get a better qualifying position, or did some people compromise on their setup so that it would suit them in the wet conditions in the race? That is what's going to be very, very interesting to see. Zaldama on pole position. I don't, like I say, we don't want to doubt Zaldama's real talent.
That's what I was.
But he has. He's not been.
Well.
He's not really been close to pole really at any point so far this season. Probably the closest he's been was Silverstone, and he qualified around 5th or 6th at that track. So that maybe somewhat possibly indicates that Zaldama's gone for something that leans a bit more towards a drier setup.
Now, according to the AWS thing, it says it's possible to get rain for the whole race. Now, obviously, we have no clue whether it's going to be rain throughout the whole race or if it will clear up. The only people that know that are the drivers. And I'll keep an eye on the chat to see if anyone says anything. But we'll see on retrospect. But if it's going to be dry at the end, that could help maybe by the long run because it's a risk. Do you take the wet setup and then try to struggle on like the back? Do you start on a wet setup and then be slow by the end if it dries up, or do you take the reverse, start in a dry setup, struggle, but then have that pace advantage by the end of the race?
Yeah, at least the silver lining, if someone has gone for something that is more biased to the dry conditions, the thing is with intermediate conditions, if you can keep the car on the road in the wet, it's still incredibly difficult to overtake. You obviously don't have the advantage of DRS at all, and it's very unlikely that you'll see people using a lot of ERS or fuel mixture in the wet conditions just because you'll just lose so much grip that it's difficult to get the car out of the corners. So overtaking in the wet conditions is fairly difficult. So if I was in their position, if it does dry out, which I think by the looks of it, Foxy Red, hello to Foxy Red, has just put a thing in the chat to say it looks like it might be drying up towards the end of the race. So if I was in their position, I would have maybe done what some of the drivers might have done and gone for something that focuses more on the dry end of the race, because if you get to the end of the race and you've got a faster car in a straight line, it's going to be a breeze for you in the dry conditions.
True, but you got to struggle through the wet, and if you, like, I remember going up Rouge with no traction, with a dry setup, I would not want to be that driver going up that field right now. And Nightshade, look at Azudia, he's really far ahead of the Renault driver, Young Power, so maybe again a situation where he may be pushing it up, but yeah. Wet setup might leave you stuck sitting in a duck in a dry track, but also, according to at least Foxy Red, it may clear up by the end of the race. So, we'll have to see here. But, get the popcorn out. We were looking for a rain race here in EML, and it's glad to see one finally, and it will test the driver's strength here. And this is not probably what Amazing Hour wants to see, partially because rain brings chaos, and you could be involved in someone else's accidents.
Yeah, you definitely could. You don't know whether you're going to be benefiting from the chaos or whether you're not. Whether you're going to be a part of the chaos. You've got to say in Austria he benefited from it, but at Silverstone he was a part of the chaos. So it's kind of been a little bit topsy-turvy for him so far. Everyone's coming around to line up on the grid. So before we get going, I'm going to ask you, Pepsi, who do you think is going to win this race?
You know what? I'm gonna go with Excel Zumi. I'm gonna go with the Red Bull driver. You know, he got in pole. We kind of been doubting him a little bit. I'm gonna give him my vote of confidence.
Brilliant stuff. I think for my prediction, I'm looking at Harry B. I think he might be a good shout for this race victory. We'll wait and see. We obviously don't really know at this point in the championship who the master of the wet conditions is. We've not really had a lot of weather interference so far in this championship, so it's going to be interesting to see who is the king of the wet conditions. Everyone is lined up on the grid, so hopefully we get the lights on, and we do. Here come the lights then ahead of the drivers. Who gets the best run into La Source? Lights are out and away they go gingerly off the line in the wet conditions, and it looks a fairly even start. Harry B has had a poor start from third on the grid. M Short is immediately past. Crease is already up as well into fourth place in the racing point. Harry B has dropped at least 4 places at the start of this race. It's not been a good start for the running man. Young Power out of the source. A brilliant run out of the hairpin.
Oh, they're going to go side by side of Perouge here in the back. That's never going to work. Red Bull driver Neo and Harry, they're side by side. Oh, it's 4 wide in the back of Perouge here for 6th. And they all got through it relatively clean. Some of them got extending track limits, but they're at least all the right way, which is positives.
Positive, yeah. It's Vettel now trying to work his way through from 11th on the grid.
He has nowhere to go.
Yeah, and Neo really late on the brakes into the Lecombe chicane, gets the car stopped just about, and Harry B from 3rd on the grid down to 7th. What a dreadful start it's been for the Renault man, who just didn't move off the line, just had so much wheel spin, couldn't go anywhere. By contrast though, his Renault teammate breezing past Alderma out of the source and up towards Eau Rouge. He takes the lead of the race, and we've already seen this season when Young Power gets out in the lead, out on his own, he can disappear. So we'll wait and see how he does. He's already though over a second clear of Zaldimer, who now runs 2nd. M Short runs 3rd. He's got past in all of that chaos. He's got ahead of Creaser. Creaser's managed to pass Amazing Hour. So while Amazing Hour passed Harry B, he's been past himself as well. So he remains in 5th place behind Creaser in the racing point. Early phases though, Young Power, a brilliant
M Short's
start.
got an X. M Short's got an X above his name, so I'm riding more with Crazy here. Oh, and he's lagging, he's left. His internet's dropped again. That is not good. 3rd week in a row he's had some problems here. Hope we can get it refired. But it's worth noting right now, I was going to say that Kaiser's all the back of Short. So the question is maybe we'll see who has wet setups on, who has dry setups on. Because if Power really pulls away, maybe a situation where, I'm not discrediting the Power's a strong driver, but it may be a situation where he may have his car set up for the wet. So I think Kaiser clearly does, because he's really gaining on this front 2 here.
Definitely is. As Amazing Hour passes M Short's AI car. That is such a shame for M Short to have another problem with his internet in the background. We've got TL44 and Scott Bugner into the pit, and I think to replace their front wing, so they've not had a great start to this race. Maybe caught up in a little bit of
Williams and the constructors.
Yeah, definitely not at all, especially for TL44S. That is a real shame for Williams at the moment. Renault are on the up in the manufacturers. M Short has rejoined the lobby, so fingers crossed he can get a hold of it. Was just riding on board with Young Power there.
I just lost the back end a little bit there. He's still got it fired, but he has no damage, so he's still good. But that was, if his AI crashes under safety car, not safety car, if he just crashes, that would really hurt Short's pride.
It really would, yeah. Was just riding on board with Young Power as well, coming up the top of Radeon, and that car was all over the shot. It's very difficult to get these cars up that hill. Even in these conditions, it's not really that wet. There's no standing water on the track. It's kind of perfect intermediate conditions because it's not dry, but it's not soaking wet to the point where we're crossing over to the full wet. So it's not difficult conditions for the intermediate cars, but still these drivers really struggling to get that car up through Eau Rouge and Radeon at the moment. The top 4, though, you've got to say, are starting to break away a little bit now. Neo runs in 5th. Having started 9th, it's been a great start for Neo up into 5th place, but he's already detached from our top 4. He's not under pressure from drivers behind. Harry B hasn't been able to recover from that poor start so far, still runs in 6th place, but you've got to say already it looks like the top 4 are just starting to break away.
Yep, 100% indeed, and I'm just thinking, I'm looking again, I know, I'll keep saying this throughout the broadcast, but I think Harry may have set his car up for the dry, maybe he didn't check the weather, or maybe thought the rain wouldn't be as bad, because he's clearly kind of struggling here, and he's usually a driver that's pretty fast. I think looking in chats, he said he was okay at Belgium, not the greatest, so maybe that's a little bit of a pace test of it, but again, a driver second in the standings, you think he'd be a little bit more up there, but I do think his car is set up for drier conditions, so we'll have to keep an eye on him by the end, but hopefully it dries out a lot quicker than what maybe be projected.
Maybe, yeah, and like you said, Creaser earlier on looked like he was gaining. He's already right on the back of Zaldimer. He is flying, and he's dragging Amazing Hour with him as well. Amazing Hour to note as well, has a lot more, has almost 100% ERS, whereas Creaser in front has 70 and Zaldama has 65. So Amazing Hour is saving ERS while closing in. As well for Young Power, he's in the lead and has got 90. So second and third at the moment seem to be supplementing their pace with a lot of ERS usage.
Yeah, but it is really easy to save ERS around here, especially in rain conditions. You can just kind of save it up without even knowing. So it's a situation where it's very easy to save ERS, but maybe that's just, again, a pace deficit issue where Amazing Hour is our championship leader, so maybe he's just a little bit faster, so he doesn't have to worry about as much while Kaiser and Zudina have to try to keep in touch with Power. But with no DRS, the one thing that kind of keeps you close is no longer available. So, yeah, you just got to try to keep close.
Yeah, just got to, like you say, try and keep close, keep yourself in the ballpark, really, by the time it possibly dries out at the end. That gap between Amazing Hour and Neo, now that the time has updated itself, it's about 1.7 seconds, so it's not a major gap, but it is probably the biggest gap in the field of all the people that haven't pitted yet, apart from Chapelele, who has not had a strong start in that McLaren whatsoever, currently in 14th place. So, Neo at the moment... Neo, word!
Neo was squirrely there. He put on the ERS there, and that's when the back end kicked out. So too much power off exit, did not have the control. And that's going to allow Harry a free spot, and now Kugino's going to have to try to pass Neo. But that was a mistake there. And I was just about to say, I was thinking in my head that other than TLR 445 and Scott Berger, who had accents off the first line, everyone else has kept it relatively straight, which is kind of good to see in rain conditions. You don't usually think that would happen, especially with wet conditions. But and no traction, but surprised everyone kept it clean. But yeah, still to go. So I don't think we're on pace for a safety car yet, but then again, you'll never know when someone maybe goes a little bit bearing by the end of the race.
Yeah, and I mean, Neo nearly proved you wrong there. That was a big moment coming out of P1. Like I say, just getting that ERS on too early, and that is the risk you run in these wet conditions. Like I mentioned earlier on, it's difficult to get the run on people because you can't use the ERS in the traction zones like you can do in the dry conditions. One thing to note here, though, Creaser is starting to close back in on the back of Zaldama a lot more. In the second half of the lap, he seems to be a bit stronger than the Red Bull driver as he heads up through Radion. Let's see what the car is like to onboard drive. Downshifts into 7th gear to get the car up the hill. Amazing Hour had a much better run through the hill, but without DRS isn't going to be able to get close enough for a move down towards Les Combes. Likewise for Creaser against Aldama, so they stay in order at the time being. Young Power in the lead of the race looks pretty comfortable. He's not extending a massive gap, but he's not using his ERS to pull away, so it looks like he's pretty comfortable in the lead of the race at the moment. Harry B then up to 5th, somewhat recovering now with the help of Neo's big mistake coming out of Puon. Back up into 5th. He's got a 2-second gap with a lot of clean air in front, which will help him in these wet conditions, but I think I agree with you that when you ride on board with Harry B, it definitely looks like that car is probably set up more for the end of this race.
Yeah, and the thing I'm wanting worth noting is, well, where do you make a pass for Amazing Hour right now? You're clearly a little bit faster than Kaiser and Zudina. The question is, where do you make a pass? You have no DRS in the long straight, and since your car is set up for the wet, you're sacrificing top line speed for downforce. So the question is, where do you make this pass? You're not going to make it through the corners, so he's kind of just stuck behind, and Zudina is losing just a bit of time to Young Power. So it's a situation where Young Power is kind of in the catbird seat, you could say. He's got open track, he's fast enough, he can pull away from Zudina, and Zudina's kind of being a kind of a blocker for him, inadvertently anyway, and that's allowing him the ability to kind of just keep that gap. But again, with wet conditions, one mistake, and Power may fall back, as we just saw with Neo.
Yeah, so easy to do at the moment, and just looking on board with Amazing Hour, the track does look like it's drying up already. It's nowhere near as wet as it was at the start of the race, so I wonder if we're going to get dry conditions a little bit earlier than maybe some of these drivers were expecting. If that is the case, those that have gone for more of a wet setup will be kicking themselves if that does happen, which is why you would expect those people that are on the wet setups to try and make moves as quickly as they can before the wet conditions come. Creaser again very close coming out of the source, but just cannot get the run out of the corner or up through Radion to really challenge by the end of the Kemmel straight. We've got a yellow flag.
Sector 3, that is Chapelle. Oh, he's lost it right in front of corner 15 in Pafamana, or Old Lay's house, as I like to call it.
Creaser's going for the move on Zaldama down the inside towards the Kemmel straight, down towards Les Combes, using that excess ERS he has to get to the inside line. Zaldama decides not to fight it.
Yeah, he broke very early there. He was definitely not wanting to make that pass happen because he was not challenging him. So I think, again, maybe he's playing conservatively, but that's going to allow Amazing Hour really to close up here and possibly have a lunge.
Yeah, and while Zaldama loses one place, his Red Bull teammate Neo also loses a place. So Kugino now up into 6th place, Neo down to 7th. So after that mistake, hasn't really been able to recover. One thing to note is since he's got into some clean air, Harry B has caught Amazing Hour very quickly. That gap was 2.3 seconds 2 laps ago.
But it looks like it stopped raining. I don't see any more drops in the screen.
I think it has.
I think that's a situation where, again, maybe Harry's car is now coming to life because of the situation.
Definitely looks like it, and now you're going to start to see people trying to make moves as we get towards the dry conditions. Obviously, we are not at slick tyres just yet. That's probably maybe a lap or two away at this point in the race, but without the rain, that is going to dry up very, very quickly. It's now all about when drivers come into the pit lane, how quickly they can make that decision, and who
Harry
is
got
brave
squirrely
enough.
there. Harry almost made a mistake there on the conditions there. He's just trying to play yellow flag sector 1 Chappelle around again. He's really having some struggling here in these wet conditions. Oh, he's on the hards. Okay, that explains why he's been losing the back end a lot. I guess he wants to try anything, but being so far back, I don't really think that was the smartest idea, but I guess he's been kind of struggling all weekend. So it's a situation where why not try anything and see what happens. Young Power still sets a fast lap at the race, even though conditions are drying.
Yeah, drying out 154.9 the fastest lap of the race. And for Young Power, who now has a 2.2 second gap over Creaser, who is now already a second clear of Zaldema. So Zaldema really struggling at this phase of the race to keep up with the drivers around, and is now under pressure from Amazing Hour. Can Amazing Hour get that run through La Source? You can see much more confident in the corner, halve that gap between himself and the Red Bull midway through Radion. Yeah. Breezes down the inside. Zaldema again choosing not to fight this move. Amazing Hour down the inside, back up into third, and again Zaldema very early on the brakes into Lecom, choosing not to fight it.
Oh, Short going for a move on Vettel. Oh, he's around. Short I was watching him going up the hill there. He was very close, and he was probably being aggressive at that lag out, and he needed to get that thing going by. That was way too late. $1 late, a day late, and $1 short, as someone else would say. And that's a situation where it was a bad idea. Now he's got a broken wing, I believe, on his right particle. So yeah, that was just an aggressive move for someone that had to go for it, and should have probably waited.
Yeah, just desperate to try and get these places back. It just only caught the end of that, but that is such a shame for M-Short, whose race and season just goes from bad to worse now for him. Now down into 13th place. It's not been good. On board with Chapelele, he is still all over the road on those hard tyres, so we are still not near slick conditions. I don't think we're going to see anybody in on this lap unless someone takes a massive risk, which I don't think is smart at this point in the race. We're still fairly early on.
Yeah, no, not because you can still see some spray up. I think maybe if you're short, why not risk it? You got nothing to lose if you're short. You've lost. After that pass, something bad's happened. Oh, yellow flag! Oh, that was Chapelle, and I thought that was the leader for a second there. That gave me a strike, but no, everyone is still good up front. But I think something I was doing. I want to go back to Zudima for a minute here. I think he may have a car set up for wet, but also partially that I think because look how conservative he is on the brakes. Maybe it's just a situation where he's not kind of used to being up front battling for lead or maybe battling for overtakes. So it's a situation where he's being kind of conservative. Or maybe he just doesn't want to wreck someone and keep the car clean, but he's being very conservative on the brakes. But first driver in is actually the Racing Point driver, and we'll see what he decides to put on. Yeah,
modulate then into the pit lane. You would imagine at this point in the race it's got to be for a set of medium compound tyres. So we'll wait and see what his pace is, but I still think this is too early in the race. There's still a little bit of water at the side of the track. You can see it. It's very faint, but it is still there, and there's still spray coming off the tyres.
Oh, his back end's already loose. Coming off the line. Yeah. Oh, he's struggling. I'll keep an eye on him, but we'll see. Oh, nope. He's going to struggle, but if he can survive, it may pay out. Well, we'll see how much time he loses. Yeah, going up Rouge here. Oh, he's very light-footed here. I just don't think he's going to pay off. He's going to lose so much time, even by the time he gains.
Yeah, just.
But we'll keep an eye on him.
Yeah, Chapelele as well came in for a set of mediums after that spin, and he is likewise all over the road at the moment. We'll keep an eye on the gap.
The Racing Point just cut the corner there. He had no way of hitting that apex. Yeah, it's way too early.
Yeah, too early at this point in the race. Indeed. We'll wait and see if anyone decides to come in on this lap, but Marjolit already nearly 3 seconds down on M-Short on this lap alone, and he's only completed a third of the lap, so it's not been the right time to pit at this point in the race. Absolutely.
I mean, he's a reserve driver. He's got nothing to lose. Why not just take a risk here? It may pay off, it may not. You're going for the possible win. The only thing you're really fighting for is the win. So why not take a risk? But yeah, now he's falling back behind TLO445 and Scott Bergner. So yeah, it's gone from bad to worse for him. Yellow flag sector to the Chapelle around again. He's really had a rough day. 1 lap down, and he's really not keeping it up. We'll see if anyone else decides to risk it. So far, no one. So, Kugino coming in.
Oh, wow. Kugino in, and so is Neo and Vettel.
Maybe, I think they may have flashed up on the screen. The engineer may have told him, because everyone else behind him has come in. So, Nightshade hasn't, but Short has. So, I think the engineer may have told him, come on in, because that was synchronized.
Now, that is crucial in this race because Coutinho was right behind Harry B, who is likewise right behind Zalama. So, if Coutinho can get a good enough outlap, DRS is now enabled, so we are towards the dry conditions. Now, this race depends on how Coutinho is on this outlap. What is his pace like? Can he get enough pace to jump some of the drivers in front? He's got a full tank of ERS to use, because he's got to push on this outlap. Because if he's got a good outlap, the intermediate tyres are going to overheat heavily in these conditions as further down the field.
Someone around. Charlie Haas hit the wall on entry of pit lane here, and he's broken his front wing.
Yeah, I think Strudozzi might have done the same thing. Yes, he has. So both drivers spinning out of the pit lane, so it's still right on the bubble of grip at the moment. People aren't that confident.
But DRS has been enabled. DRS has been enabled, though. But yeah, we got a pass here. Short's going to make a pass on Strudozzi for 11. But yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on Coutinho. But what's worth noting is the Racing Point driver of Margalit came in, and yeah, he is lost out big time. He has gained nothing from pitting one lap early, so that just shows you the risk of pitting too early as Bergner passes Strozzi for 13th.
Yeah, and at the moment on board with Coutinho, he's not got a lot of front-end grip. That car is washing all over the surface. Just doesn't seem to have a lot of grip. He's matching the pace of Nightshades as he understeers off the track there at Puon. He's matching the pace of Nightshades, but I've got to say, just based on regular pace alone, Coutinho and Nightshades are not really in the same kind of level of competitiveness, so it's not really working at the moment for Coutinho. I still think this might have been a lap too early. Is Young Power coming in?
Leaders are coming in.
Yeah.
Yep, leaders are coming in. Chip Pally gets 5 fracks in the pit lane again. Now he's just racking up pedally after pedally. We'll see if anyone stays out. Harry coming in as well. So it'll be a race here. I think Coutinho's just too far back.
I think so, yeah. And the problem here for Harry B, though, is he's going to have to get stacked behind his teammate in the pit lane. So that is a real shame for Harry B. That's going to cost him even more time if he's not careful. Young Power out of his pit box. I think he can actually get out just ahead.
Oh, they're getting out just ahead. Going to cost him like a half a second, but that could have been a lot worse if they were closer up the grid.
Yeah.
So that was actually only probably not that bad. So Coutinho, here he comes. He's on the straight. We'll see where he pops in. Dead set of last purple sector here. He's going to come out probably ahead of Harry, but I think that's as far as he'll get.
Yes,
Actually...
Harry there.
No,
out
not
of the
even
pit
Harry.
lane.
Oh, no, he will. He'll definitely get Harry.
Just ahead, but that's obviously compensated by the fact that Harry B had to get held up a little bit in the pit lane. So Coutinho, by pitting a lap early, didn't really gain anything from that at all. And he's come out very close to where he was in the previous set of this race. Now we see what drivers have done in terms of their setup. Who now starts to climb their way up the field in the dry conditions? As Chapelele has spun. I think he's used up his 9 lives in this race. That is him now out of the race completely. So McLaren driver out of it. And just looking there, Creaser really understeering coming through Malmedy.
Safety car. Ooh. That's going to call a safety car for that. So that's going to neutralize the field. And that's what Short wants to see. Because Short, that is his saving grace right now.
That is
now the question is, though, here's something that's worth noting. We're going to go back with lap 11. The softs can go about 12 laps. Do you pit for a set of softs?
That is the question. I think if you're a bit further down the field, maybe both the Haas cars, or some who have obviously got damage in the early parts of the race, or someone like Margalit who pitted too early for a set of medium compound tyres, you may as well go for something a little bit different and play a bit of a gamble here. Like you say, soft tyres, you can take them 10 or 12 laps in this race without really having to worry about tyre wear in terms of percentage time. You may lose a bit of actual race time towards the end of the race, but percentage wear isn't really going to be too much of a problem. So it's probably worth the risk if anyone wants to go for it. And I think we've seen so far this season, Scott Buckner is definitely the one to do it. So if we're going to see anyone come into the pit lane, I think it's likely that we'll see that Haas driver in.
Yep, 100%. I'm looking like Short's definitely going to do it, because right now he's got nothing to lose. He has to go for championship here. Short, Nightshades, Margalit, TL445, Scott Burton, everyone 9th on down. Even Vettel, I feel like, will try the strategy. I think 7th on down for sure. And then I think we'll see, is Young Power going to come in? He stays out. Will Kaiser take a risk? No, he will not. Amazing Hour? Nope. Red Bull driver? Maybe try something? Nope. Coutinho? Nope. They're all faking me out here. Neo, will he try it? No, he will not. Vettel? Nope. So I don't think anyone's trying it.
No, they're all staying out.
I feel like that's a risky... it's smart in the center track position, but especially if you're 7th or 8th, why not risk it? Even Short staying. Ooh, maybe they're not confident in the softs.
Maybe they're not. No, maybe they don't think they can get those softs to the end of the race. We'll have to wait and see. Margalit also staying out as well. So, yeah, no one really coming in and trying that risky strategy. I mean, by the time we get going in this race, you would imagine it'll be the end of lap 11 when we get going again. We're past the halfway point in this race. The softs should be able to get to the end fairly easily. Scott Bugner even staying 100%. Out. So, no one
unless
coming
you're waiting one more lap. Unless you're waiting one more lap to try it, but then the field's going to get more bunched up. But it's risky. I think if you were Short or something like that, you have to pit now. I think personally, this is why I'm in the commentary booth and I'm not on the engineer tower. But I would tell the driver to come in. You risk it. What do we got to lose if you're short? You're ninth.
I would have done the same as well, especially knowing how DRS trains form on this game as well. The fact that M Short would be probably right in the thick, if not at the back of that queue, it's going to be difficult for him to make overtake stick at any point, unless the queue in front gets split up in any way. So I think it would have been worth the risk, at least for maybe someone M Short, even one of the Haas drivers to come into the pit lane. Charlie Harris and Scott Buckner both have had top 10 results this season, have good pace to be a solid top 10 finisher, and they've both had compromised starts to this race with damage at some point. So it would have been worth either one of those drivers maybe trying something a little bit different.
But then I'm also reminded of Canada with the first race we did. I'm reminded of Short pitted for a set of, I believe, mediums after coming on hards, and he couldn't work his way through the field. But true, there were 2 more safety cars after that, so that partially kind of hurt him. But I think maybe he's got flashbacks of that race where he pitted and the safety cars didn't fall his way, so maybe he's just wondering, all right, since it's going to be a chaotic restart, a lot of these drivers have saved their fuel, saved their rest, they're going to go off the line. Safety cars breed safety cars. And true, Chappelle kind of just lost on his own, and they threw a flag for that. But we may actually get a real safety car trigger if someone decides to go aggressively into turn 1.
Possibly that is the case, yeah, so we'll have to wait and see, but yeah, still no one risking that. Do we see at the end of this lap anyone try and come into the pit lane? We'll wait and see, but you would imagine now that everyone has stayed out, we're likely not to see that. We are going to get another lap behind the safety car, so still one more lap to go.
Maybe if you're Harris, you may try it, because you're already in 15th, but yeah, I don't think anyone else will try it. We'll see here. Power, no. Yep, I don't think anyone's coming in.
I don't think so either.
So,
We're just having a look at Charlie Harris, who's just caught the queue. Does he decide to come in? No, he doesn't. So, no one has come in and risked it. So everyone's staying out on a set of medium tyres, which is, oddly, conservative.
Yeah. Especially in this league, we've seen a lot of strategy. Sometimes drivers want to be their own worst enemies, and I'm reminded of multiple examples from multiple race series, again, where drivers were too aggressive, but it worked out in their favor. Live by the sword, die by the sword. Get too close to fire, you make it burn. So many other analogies I could use to make this work. But, yeah, I would have pitted, but, again, that's why I'm not driving this league, because if I pitted, I think I'd be the wrong way around by now.
Yeah, I think that's exactly why I'm up here as well. We're not racing. I probably would have made the mistake of coming in, but seemingly everyone thinks staying out was the right option. The one that I'm probably most surprised by is Margalit staying out. Oldest set of medium compound tyres, out of position as it stands, being where he was before the pit stop phase as well. Oldest set of medium tyres puts him at a real disadvantage to pretty much everybody around him, and he's a reserve driver as well, so he may as well go for something a little bit risky just to try and work himself up the field and get a good result in. So currently 11th, we'll see where he can get on his older set of medium tyres. No one in this field is going to have any problem with getting to the end of the race, that is for certain. These tyres will definitely take them to the end of this Grand Prix. It's just a case of who is able to work their way forwards and who has gone for something that is a little bit more dry weather focused. That could be the key to someone like M Short's race. If someone further up the field has gone for something that's slower in a straight line and serves the wet conditions better, that could split the queue of cars up at the front of the field.
100% indeed. Because remember, some of them may be on wet setups, so we don't 100% know. We've speculated a couple could be like the Red Bull driver Schema, but we don't 100% know. So we'll have to see with the tires being neutralized. Not neutralized. Well, I guess they are technically neutralized. But with everyone on different fuel loads and all that such, we'll have to see how it works. But it may help Short, or it may log jam the field behind him. But now with DRS open in 3 laps, it should make passing a little bit easier. But by the time it's open, that'll be on lap 15, and that's well over past halfway, so you're running out of time. And we know that Young Power likes to go far away into the distance when he checks out. So a situation where Young Power may still be in the catbird seat.
One thing to note here, Young Power stayed so far behind the safety car that the safety car stayed out for another lap. That is crucial. Yeah, Young Power has built such a gap between himself and the safety car that the safety car hasn't registered that he's actually caught the safety car. So that safety car staying out for another lap. I've seen this, maybe I've seen this a couple times in previous league races before, where drivers will deliberately drop back to extend the safety car period so that there's less overtaking opportunities for other drivers. Now that it's staying out for another lap, do we see anybody come in? Because now it is 100% definite you'd get to the end on a set of softs.
Yeah, but the thing is, that strategy would have worked out if you were in the back. But now, again, unless you're 13, 14, 15... Oh, Scott Berger's coming in. All right. He's fit your key to a fiddle. Yeah, both... Uh-oh, they're going to double stack. But I guess they got nothing to lose here. But yeah, it's a situation where I kind of agree. Like, you now definitely can make the end. Why not risk it, especially 14 for 15? What do you got to lose?
Yeah, exactly.
Except pride. You're only gonna gain maybe a spot or two. At worst, you gain a spot or two. At best, you possibly get more points inside the top 10. Or if there's big commotion up front, you could even get a top 5 if you play your cards right.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't risk it.
It just opens your opportunities up. If you're matching what everyone else is doing, you're pretty much going to stay where you are if you're in position, which pretty much everyone in this field is pretty much where they would be in regular speed position, apart from maybe M-Short. So that is the kind of thing that we need to see drivers doing if they want to get further up the field. And both Haas cars leave it up to both Haas cars to try something a little bit different. In the past, while Scott Buckner hasn't maybe had the results, he's definitely made alternate strategies work in the past.
I'm partially just going to give my Driver of the Day award to him now, even if it doesn't work out, because at least they tried something. At least they're trying something. I'll give them that. It may not work out, but at least they're trying something different instead of staying with the status quo. They're going against the buck.
Yeah.
Will it work out? Who knows? But I'll give them points for trying.
Yeah, I definitely give him points for trying as well. It's good to see drivers doing something a little bit different. And now this adds another element to this race as to how far up the field can these Haas cars get. Charlie Harris, obviously a double stat behind his teammate, but that's not a problem behind the safety car. They were at the back of the field anyway, so they've not lost anything. And there is no doubt in my mind that these soft tyres will be getting to the end of the race from this point onwards. So they won't have to struggle. It's just flat out from here on to the end of this race. Now what they need to hope for is that what we need to hope for as commentators as well, is that both Haas cars went for something that's more dry weather focused, because that could make their overtaking a little bit easier. If they've gone for something wet weather focused, they could get
Charlie
stuck.
didn't set up. One of them, I remember it was Charlie. No, Charlie did a bank lap. Scott, one of them two, did not go out in qualifying, did a lap at all. So I'm generally thinking he probably maybe knew something was up, but I don't know if that was he thought it was wet and he didn't want to put that. And same thing, both of them did pretty slow laps, so we don't know. But hopefully, they did something smart here.
Hopefully they did, yeah, we'll wait and see. Safety car is coming in at the end of this lap, so the safety car stayed out maybe a lap longer than we were expecting, but here we go then. We're going to have 9 laps of green flag racing left in this race. A lot of things still yet to happen. This race has pretty much been split in half. You wouldn't imagine that it was completely wet at the start of this race. It's now bone dry and it's a completely different race to what we had earlier on. Young Power will lead the way though. Let's see what he can do. He's backing the field right up, running very slowly, around 50 miles an hour. Doesn't seem to want to up the speed at all. Nearly running down to pit lane speed limiter and goes now before Blanchimont, which is very early for a safety car race, and is now up and going. It looks like he's broken away from the field quite nicely. Chris has not dropped too far back. Neither has Amazing Hour. Coutinho seems to be the one that's made the best safety car restart. He's right up behind Zaldama, coming up into the bus stop chicane. No overtaking though until they cross the start-finish line. Coutinho got a stunning run though, coming out of the final corner.
Now he's definitely going to pass the Red Bull.
Yeah,
easily
down the inside.
Turn 1 here.
He backs out of it.
He's not trying it. Waiting. Maybe he doesn't want to risk breaking a wing here.
No, Zaldama very deep though into the La Source hairpin. Coutinho nearly running clean into the back of him. Can he get the run up through Eau Rouge and Radion and in towards the Les Combes chicane? Has he got enough speed to do so? Obviously no DRS, so it's all going to be about straight line speed, and I don't think he's
short, already passing Vettel. Short passing Vettel for 8th here. Just got past him like he was standing still. Checking back in on the Haas. Haas has already caught back Drudel here, but I don't think they'll have an overtake going to the corner here. That's got a pack for the Williams here on Margelit for 12th and 11th, but he'll tuck back in line.
Yes, in order for the time being, M-Short is the one, like you say, that's gained. He's up into 8th place. Zaldama crucially using a lot of ERS to hold on to that place ahead of Coutinho, who's used virtually none of his ERS. And Zaldama already at a DRS range to Amazing Hour in front, but Coutinho cutting.
Coutinho gets a penalty, and Neo gets a penalty. So they're the first two just in sync on the same corner, no less. So that's not going to help Coutinho in the run. No. But Harry, this fight has allowed Harry to kind of catch up here, and we suspect that Harry had a dry setup car here. So we'll see if he can make some time here.
Yeah, good opportunity now with Coutinho with a time penalty and Zaldama seemingly struggling at this point in the race. The gaps in the top 3 are a little bit bigger than I was expecting as well. Young Power has already broken.
Oh, round goes Bergner. Bergner tried to possibly make an overtake on Serduzo, or at least was thinking about it. Got a little too close to the apex, and he lost the back end completely. That was just a mistake on his part, and that's going to cost him gears. That strategy's already backfired, so it's up to Charlie Haas to carry the flag for Haas. Sorry, Charlie Harris with flag for Haas. Coutinho's past Red Bull driver for 4th.
Yeah, up past Zaldama, then up into 4th, well before the bus stop chicane. So Zaldama already struggling. He's derating. He's used so much ERS on this lap that Zaldama is derating coming up towards the line. That's obviously allowed Coutinho to just breeze past down towards the bus stop chicane. And has already built up a little bit of a nice gap. Harry B already now as well, right up behind. Maybe Zaldama has gone for something that was a bit more focused to the wet conditions, because already he's starting to plummet in the dry as it stands. At the front, Young Power holds a 1.2 second lead over Creaser, who holds a 1 second lead over Amazing Hour. So at the moment, we're not having a DRS train form. The gaps are starting to build in the top 4.
But what's worth noting is, remember, Zenith set the pole run, so if he had a wet setup on and that was his pole run, that would be a bit shocking. Maybe he just forgot to change the wings back.
Maybe.
So that could be a situation as well. Bumped him up and then didn't bump him down in the pit lane. Could be a rookie mistake. Short now gets 3 from multi warning. He is trying his hardest to get through the field, and it's cost him 3.
Yeah, as his teammate TL44 also gets a penalty as well. Charlie Harris, I think, lost a bit of time behind his teammate when his teammate spun. I think he had to back off to avoid his teammate.
Yeah,
and that's
what
dropped
happened.
It. Yeah.
Almost backed into him. Berger almost backed into Harris, so a situation where he almost took them both out. And we were, that's a sad thing. But anyway, half of the top 4 have been really spaced out, but the problem is that is really not going to help Hugino right now, because Hugino got that 3. And I'll just take a quick look at the racetrack here while you cover the action. I'm just going to take a look, see if anyone else has any warnings.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. Young Power then, the gap is slightly coming down now between Young Power and Creaser. Both of them using a lot of ERS. Amazing Hour is not using anywhere near as much ERS as our top 2 in this race, and it's still sticking fairly close, so that could benefit Amazing Hour later on in the race as it stands. Young Power still holds a 1.2 second advantage, but he's down to 30% ERS, trying to hold that advantage at the moment. Coutinho in 4th has enough ERS as well to challenge maybe if he can get close enough to Amazing Hour. DRS is now enabled, so we are into that point of the race now where we're going to start to see some more overtaking happening, especially a bit further down in the field at the moment. Marginally all over the back of Nightshades for 10th place on the road at the moment, trying to get a move done into La Source, but a double front lockup trying to avoid the back of the Alfa Romeo. That makes TL44S back off as Strudozzi capitalizes, passes the Williams driver down the inside of the hairpin. Gets up into 12th place. Charlie Harris now right on the back of these guys already as well on the softs, so can he start to work his way forwards in this race?
Well, Berger did get the fast lap of the race, so that shows the softs do have an advantage, but he's 6 seconds behind. But I was just taking a look at the incident report here. Just worth noting here is that, I'm scoring gets a little screwed up there, but Young Power has 2 warnings curling to his name, Kaiser has none, Amazing Hour has 2 warnings to his name, and Coutinho obviously has a 3-second time penalty. So right now, Amazing Hour and Young Power are playing with fire. If they get one more cut, they'll get 3 seconds added to their name, while Kaiser has been clean. So Kaiser has no warnings. So right now, Kaiser's kind of in the catbird seat, because if he can put some pressure on Power and cause Power to make a mistake or try to get a little bit too much time and cut, that can easily help Kaiser win this race. So right now, Kaiser's in the catbird seat.
He definitely is. Charlie Harris, meanwhile, works his way past TL44S, is up into 13th place now, so he's starting to work his way forwards on the soft compound tyres, but he's not really had the pace advantage I would have expected. I think maybe Scott Bogner might have had the better opportunity of the 2 Haas cars, but unfortunately spun out of contention because of that little contact a little bit earlier on. Front of the field, the gap's still over a second between all of our top 4 drivers, and it could be our top 5 soon, because Aldama really struggling to hold on to Coutinho at this point in the race. Harry B all over the back of that Red Bull car, looks much more comfortable.
He's out of ERS. I mean, considering that Coutinho, sorry to cut you off, but Coutinho's at 40 ERS, and Harry's at 60, and Zamino's at 22. Clearly shows that he's struggling to keep up with Coutinho's back end, because he's really using all his ERS to stay close. Yeah, he's using a lot of it, like you say, just to try and keep up at the moment. He's just within DRS range as it stands, which is helping him defend against Harry B. But if he does lose that DRS range on the next lap, he'll be a sitting duck with a lack of ERS. He's got Harry B not close enough for a move this time around coming up through Eau Rouge and Radion. He's going to sit back for the time being. But at this point in the race, at least Harry B looks a lot more comfortable than a little bit earlier on. Further down. Also pass for 7th here. Neo and a short. Short gonna have DRS here. Just gonna get past Neo like he's standing still. Okay, not standing still, but gonna get Prem clear, get the inside back, and now he's made the pass 7. But something that's shocking right now is, I don't know if you see it on your screen, but is Neo ghost, or is Neo's car actually solid on your screen?
Neo's car is ghosted on my screen. I think he is in control of that car. The thing is, I don't actually know though, because
it did say he was a lap down on the timing screen. Now it says he's 15th a lap down, so that's why I'm wondering. Because it may be a scoring glitch.
I think so, but I think it looks like he's fully in control of that car by the way that he's driving on board. You obviously wouldn't see an AI driver driving like that, but a very bizarre, a very bizarre timing glitch.
Now he's back up to 8th, and now it's fixed. So weird.
It is
again
bizarre.
all the things Codemasters could have fixed. I know I rag on them. They make a good game, but make cars equal in time trial. That's a priority. Not fix the spectating glitches. Okay, interesting to note. But anyway. I won't bag on you too much, Codemasters. Harry's probably going to have a pass here on Zudima here going into the braking section here.
We'll wait and see if he thinks about it or whether he waits for the DRS ranges. We'll wait and see as he comes up towards the bus stop chicane. He could think about a late dive. He looks to the inside, maybe trying to force Zaldama into a mistake, but he isn't quite close enough. So Zaldama holds 5th, Harry B holds 6th for the time being, but Zaldama is crucially dropping out of that DRS range further up the field. Amazing Hour has worked his way into DRS range of Carissa as Memshort sets the fastest lap of the race on that lap, using DRS to his good effect as well. So that will save him a point in the championship at the moment, but he is still losing out to Amazing Hour, who, despite not qualifying behind both of his championship rivals, at this moment would finish ahead of both of his championship rivals. Harry B, though, right on the back of Zaldama. Is he going to use that excess ERS to get a move done here? He's using it now down towards Lecom. Zaldama trying to break the toe down towards the corner, but down the inside comes Harry B. How late is Zaldama on the brakes? Again, Zaldama choosing not to fight it and is very early on the brakes into the chicane. Harry B up into 5th, somewhat recovering from that contact and that poor first lap earlier on. Now up into 5th, it will be 4th with Coutinho's mistake. It's going to be difficult though for Harry B to work any higher than that.
Yeah, unless he gets lucky, because now Amazing Hour has caught the back of Kreiser for DRS range. So yeah, he's going to have to really try to reel in Coutinho, or hope Coutinho reels in Amazing Hour. But now with DRS on Amazing Hour, yeah, it's going to be very hard to catch indeed. So going to lose points regardless, but not too much if you get to 4th. But with only 3 rounds left, even losing small points could be detrimental to the championship hopes.
It really could be, yeah, detrimental. Like you say, he's got to try and get as many points as he can, but Amazing Hour doing what he needs to do, and it's just being consistent. He's not pushing the boundaries. At this point, he could probably settle for 3rd and be happy with it, because he is beating both of his close championship rivals. The only person ahead of him that could be a possible championship rival is Young Power, but he's the furthest off of them at the moment.
The only thing I do want to put in perspective, again, like I said, is remember, Amazing Hour and Young Power both have 2 warnings. So again, if he tries to make a pass here on Kaiser and ends up bungling it and gets a cut, that could cost him dearly, because if he falls 3 seconds, that's going to put him behind Harry, and Harry will actually gain. So Amazing Hour now has to kind of play a guessing game here. How aggressive does he want to be? Because if he passes Kaiser and makes it successfully, he gets more points on Harry and Short. But on the flip of the side, if he does it and gets a cut or crashes, he ends up losing big to Harry and Short instead.
He's going for the move, though. He's using that excess ERS he's had over the past few laps, and he's going to breeze to the inside line. Creaser deciding not to fight that move. So down into 3rd goes the Racing Point, up into 2nd.
Sector 1.
Yeah, with a great straight line speed. He used up pretty much all of that excess ERS to get that move done. He's up into 2nd place. Now, can he try and catch Young Power for the lead of this race? Young Power, since taking the lead on lap 1, has not looked in doubt so far in this race. He's not really had any pressure from the drivers behind. Now it's all about what Amazing Hour can do, but in passing Creaser, he's used up a lot of that ERS, so he doesn't have that ERS advantage he had a few laps ago anymore over the drivers in front. So we'll wait and see what the raw speed is like. Meanwhile, Harry B has caught Coutinho very quickly indeed. So Harry B already right up behind the AlphaTauri. If he can get the move done on the AlphaTauri, he could try and catch Creaser for 3rd place.
Yeah, but it's also, he's automatically net P4 right now, because Coutinho is technically got 3-second time penalty. His name Yellow Flag Sector 2. Someone is around. That is Nightshade. If he gets it real far quickly, won't have any chance of safety car. No. VSC.
Virtual safety
I was going to say,
car.
because this game likes, if you take just too long to get refired, this game likes to throw VSCs and safety cars like they're candy. So this will neutralize the field for a second, but we'll give everyone a chance to breathe, maybe save some stuff, but not too much chance to breathe here. No one will be pitting unless they are crazy. Stupid.
Yeah, it'd be very bizarre to pit at this point in the race. Harry B would have had an opportunity down the pit straight to try and pass Coutinho. That has gone with the virtual safety car. It all now depends on...
Coutinho got a... I was going to say, he got a better restart, but the safety car wasn't ending yet there. Now it's actually ended, so Coutinho really got a good exit, but then it looked like Harry got it back, so never mind. But Coutinho, actually, Young Power did get better time on the safety car, because Amazing Hour... I think... No, because Amazing Hour wasn't in DRS range yet, so I think it's the other way around. Amazing Hour actually got close enough to be almost in DRS range.
Yeah, now here goes Harry B. They want to move on Coutinho down the Kemmel straight. Can he get close enough? Coutinho trying to break the toe. As down the straight they come. Nightshades is retired in the pit lane, and again for the 3rd lap. Now Harry B is going to breeze down the inside. Just goes to show that DRS around this track, if you can get close enough, is incredibly powerful. And Harry B breezes past and up into 4th place. He's got a 2-second gap to Creaser in front, who's dropping out of DRS range to Amazing Hour. I say that though, Amazing Hour made a little bit of a mistake there and has lost about half a second to Young Power in front. So he's not quite able to get within that 1 second window of Young Power, who could be staring at his second win this season if he can hold on to it through the final few laps of this race. Amazing Hour trying all he can to try and win. Zaldama now passing Coutinho, who's struggling at this point in the race. I thought earlier on that it was Zaldama maybe that went for a wet setup. It now possibly looks like it might be Coutinho, because he's made a few mistakes, and the AlphaTauri does look a little bit slow in a straight line, so maybe he's one of the drivers that went for something that's a little bit more wet focused.
Maybe indeed. That could be a risk as well. Maybe, like I said, didn't fix his wing in time here as well. But something that catches my eye right now is that, again, I think we may have a bit of a screwed up timing and scoring system at the end of this race, because Neo is still considered a lap down, and it may bump people around here. So at the end results, just take them with a grain of salt. I just want to let the viewers know that it may bump Neo up to first position for all we know. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, big train here for 6th, 7th, 8th. Short has actually caught the back in Sector 2. For some reason, it's yellow flag Sector 2. No one's in Sector 2. Coutinho is caught the back of Coutinho's already in the back of Zedema, but I'm sure he's caught this train as well, so he's looking to possibly get the P5.
Got a full track yellow flag, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah, but for some reason, no one's around. I think, again, no. I think it may be because, again, Neo's a lap down. I think for some reason, the game's glitching him out, and it's causing these glitches to happen.
And the problem, Coutinho's going for the move here on Zaldama, but the problem is the whole track is under yellow flags. Oh, Coutinho backed off.
100 board, 100 meter board, 50 meter board. Oh, they're all gone. And he's got to drive through. Neo's got to drive through, speeding on the safe VSC. Wait, VSC?
I didn't see a VSC pop up on my screen. If I'm
Coutinho got 10 for exceeding track limits. Yeah, there was no VSC.
No.
It didn't.
And what happened then was Coutinho passed Zaldama in a straight line, and the track was under full yellow flag conditions without any virtual safety car. So he backed off to let Zaldama back through, and in the case, Zaldama tried to tuck.
Now it's yellow flag Sector 3, right to start finish straight.
And in the process, Zaldama tried to tuck back into the slipstream of Coutinho, and in doing so, Coutinho at the same time was backing off to let Zaldama back through, and they just came into contact under that. And in some case, Neo's picked up a virtual safety car speeding penalty when there wasn't a virtual safety car.
But it didn't give Short a time penalty for making that pass. So even though we were under whatever that was, even if it wasn't, they didn't give Short a penalty for making that pass. So Coutinho even got nothing as well. He only got 10 because he exceeded the track limits, one trying to get the car down. But yeah, that is very screwy indeed. To put a little bit of a damper on this run of the line, we have 2 laps to go here. Hopefully someone will sort this out for us. But yeah, Short's out the 5th after that big mistake that's really cost Zeno some time here. But other than that, Young Power is still kind of holding away from Amazing Hour, and Kaiser's just in striking distance, but not close enough to really get, just enough to be in DRS range, but not enough to make a pass.
Yeah, it's just hanging on by the thinnest of margins. He's down to 3% ERS. His Kaiser just trying to keep up at this point in the race. It's saving him somewhat to Harry B behind us. Coutinho has retired in the pit lane, unfortunately, at the end of coming towards the end of this race. That is such a shame for Coutinho, who was looking on for a top 6 finish. He's now out of it completely, really caught out by a very strange glitch, which we're now into the 10-month cycle of this game, and that is a glitch I've never seen before. So
feels like the shades of F1 2015 all over again.
It definitely feels like that, doesn't it? It does feel like instead of...
Oh, and now it's going to throw Coutinho's car out on the track here, because it's been doing that since the last patch, and now he's going to retire somewhere on circuit. So yeah, they update something, and yet it doesn't fix it, and they make something worse. Okay, then. Interesting.
Yeah, yellow
flag.
But
anyway, yellow flag Sector 1, Sector 2, no one's around.
No one's around in Sector 2 either, so I think we are just going to have sporadic yellow flags for the rest of this race, which just has put and there we go. Another full course yellow flag. So we'll wait and see what happens.
Now it's
and
clear.
Then that's cleared again. So we'll wait and see. 1.5 laps to go, so not long left in this race. It's been a really bizarre end to the race, I will say.
Hopefully it's just spectator glitches and it doesn't affect the drivers. I don't think it is, because no pads are flying, so maybe it's just in the spectator cam. It's affecting us in the booth, but not really them.
Fingers crossed that is the case. Hopefully that is the case. Like you say, we'll wait and see. But at least it hasn't put a damper on the race for the top 4, at least. The top 4 have remained unaffected by this weird glitch we've had at the end of this race, unfortunately. We're on to the final lap of the race. Yellow flags are still flying here, there, and everywhere at the moment.
Very fast lap of the race, though, so at least consolation point for him. So at the very least, he'll get 1 extra point added to his name.
Yeah, he's trying his damnedest to try and close in on the racing point in front, but it's just too little too late at this point in the race. He's not quite able to get within that DRS range. To say that, though, Creaser wasn't able to get in DRS range of Amazing Hour, so does that leave him vulnerable at any point towards the end of this lap? He's really pushing to try and get himself to the front as Neo's into the pit lane to serve that unfortunate drive-through penalty.
Neo's lagging on the map. If you look at the map, you can see him going back and forth like he's spitting back out into the track there. So yeah, for some reason, and they just gave him something else, another penalty. Yeah, the game for some reason it's really not like Neo here today.
Yeah. It's just not been a fun day really for the Red Bull drivers. They have been massively caught out by a lot of things that haven't been their fault, unfortunately, but that's the way the cookie crumbles today. We've got half a lap to go, and you've got to say, throughout this race, Young Power, since taking the lead coming out of the source, hasn't really looked out in the wet or in the dry conditions.
No, indeed. He's not looked bad at all here. Young Power has been dominating.
Yeah, it really has. In the wet conditions, he had no trouble. In the dry conditions, he's had new challenger behind it. Was Cruiser in the wet. It's amazing Power in the dry. Neither of them have been able to get close enough. Young Power, while he's not dominated and driven away from the field, he's given himself enough of a buffer that none of the drivers behind are able to quite get close enough. So it stayed as it has been in the top 4. Young Power staring at his second victory of the season, throwing his hat in the ring for a possible championship run here. If he can get these final 3 rounds and nail on perfectly, he comes into the bus stop for the final time, throws it through the final chicane, and comes up towards the line. Young Power, for the second time this season, is a race winner in EML Formula 1. Amazing Hour will extend his championship lead, though, in second place. Brilliant result for the Mercedes driver. Cruiser back on the podium for the first time since Baku. Another great drive from the Racing Point driver. Harry B recovers to 4th after a poor run in the wet conditions. Zaldama caught out late on by some yellow flag glitches. Still comes home in 5th place ahead of Vettel, who comes home in 6th. Marjolit in 7th. M Short dropping to 8th with those time penalties. I think he may have got a 5-second time penalty for an illegal overtake, because that is way more than a 3-second penalty that he's lost.
Yeah, maybe. So I know I was looking at the chats right now. Kugino did get a legal overtake for making that pass on Sudima, so that actually was for the drivers. So that may have thrown a monkey wrench in these last couple laps here. So yeah, whatever happened to timing and scoring really kind of monkeyed this up. And now I wonder if we're going to be stuck here for 2 minutes, because Neo's crossed the line. And since it's getting him the lap down, I think we may be waiting here for 2 minutes.
Does look like we're going to just have Ryan on board with Neo though, so he's going to give us a quick demo run of the track at the very end of the race, it seems like. Although I say that, he's gone into AI mode, so I don't know whether he's thinking about retiring on the circuit. He is a lap down, but the game has allowed him to continue on for some bizarre reason, so we'll wait and see what actually happens. But we'll talk you through the final running order then at the end of this race. This is what the final positions are then. Young Power wins for the second time this season. Amazing Hour on the podium once again, picked up another great result, and that is his championship lead extended. There we go, the race is over. Neo has left the session, so the race is officially complete after, I've got to say, it's probably the most bizarre night of racing I've ever seen on a Codemasters F1 game. That was penalties left, right and centre, and that was glitches left, right and centre, and I've never seen anything like it, if I'm completely honest. That was very, very bizarre. That's running through the rest of the field though. Cruiser back on the podium for the first time since Baku in the Racing Point. Another great drive from him to pick himself up there, and that will bump him possibly up the championship as well from the 6th position he was in. Harry B in 4th with the fastest lap of the race. Somewhat of a consolidated run from the poor drive he had in the wet conditions. Zalama from pole drops to 5th in the end, just wasn't quite able to keep up with the drivers around in the dry conditions and had problems with yellow flags at the end of the race. Vettel, a fairly innocuous, quiet race, comes home in 6th place ahead of Marjolit, who recovered from a way too early pit stop for the dry tyres, to 7th place. M Short, with the penalties, drops into 8th place ahead of Stradozzi in 9th. Scott Bugner recovers to 10th, having spun at the safety car restart, so still a top 10 finish for the Haas driver, what could have been for him without that mistake in the latter stages of that race. TL44 gets 11th ahead of Charlie Harris. Neo is the first of the retirees who retired after the race finished somehow, and he finished with 23.
I think Neo may have a case, because he was battling for 7th, and then the game gave him a drive-through that you could argue was shambolic.
Unjust, yeah.
So he may have a case that he may have been 7th for 8th on track. He should have kept 7th for 8th, but it may be a hard sell. But he could possibly have a case for that. But something worth noting is Young Power only gets 5 points on Amazing. Actually, he doesn't even get. Yeah, he gets 5 points on Amazing Hour, and considering the gap was about 30 plus, that is not something he wants to see. And Amazing Hour extends lead on Harry by at least 7 points, and then 6, because remember Harry did get fast lap, so he gets 6 points on Amazing Hour. Amazing Hour gets 6 points on Harry, so 24 goes to 30 with 3 rounds to go, which means Harry needs to get at least 10 points a round to have any sort of chance of catching Amazing Hour.
He really does. Yeah, he needs Amazing Hour to have a bad round, and for Harry B to capitalise, that is a race-winning margin now. 30 points in EML is a race victory. So Amazing Hour has a win in his back pocket if he does have a bad round. So it's working out nicely for Amazing Hour, and you've got to say for Amazing Hour, he's obviously been incredibly fast all season long. He's not picked up all of the victories, he's not dominated this championship, but still has a big championship lead. Just goes to show consistency pays off, and it proved here today as well that he wasn't gunning for the race victory, he was just gunning to beat his championship rivals.
100% indeed. Remember, especially when you're at that point, remember, you're on defense now. You don't have to worry about going aggressive. You have control of your own fate. Just go out there and do what you need to do, and don't do anything dumb and brash, and you'll get some points. Because right now, Harry, Short, and the rest of the field have to be aggressive to get as many points as possible. He can just kind of lax back and just make sure he brings home a good points day, not a great one.
Yeah, that's all he really needs to do now in the defensive driving mode is our championship leader. So that is where we're going to round off the stream. Actually, just before we round off the stream, who was your driver of the day today, Pepsi?
You know what? I'll give my one driver of the day token, which is about the equivalency of one Chuck E. Cheese token. I'll give it to the Haas boys because you know what? I said I'll give them points for trying something. I'll give it to Bergner and Charlie Haas because they tried something. At least they tried. Didn't work, but I'll give them points. But on that, Young Power would also get a slight nod because he dominated from lights to flag.
Yeah, he really was a great drive again from Young Power. I'm going to give a shout out as well to Krisa for the first time back on the podium since Baku as well. I think proving that that podium at Baku wasn't a one-off fluke race. He's really improved as the season has gone on as well. So I think that is one thing to note as well, a third place finish for him against drivers around him that have had a pace advantage on him so far this season is a great result. So I think he would get a nod for me as well for driver of the day. So that is where we're going to round off the stream today, guys. It was a bit of a weird one. I think me and Pepsi were struggling from a week off. It seems we took a while to get into it.
We left our brains back in Austria. You had the war and I had some other things. So yeah, we left our brains back in Austria. We'll be good next week. Hopefully the game will be good as well and actually cuts up to 2020 standards, not 2015 standards.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. Well, I mean, we won't promise anything, but I mean, yeah, it was a bit of a bizarre one today.
Can't promise anything. No guarantees in life because Codemasters clearly shows that even though it's 10 months in the cycle, weird things can still happen.
Yeah, new glitches can pop up here, left, right, and center, even when you're 10 months in and the next game is coming out very soon. So anything can happen. But that is where we're going to round off the stream today, guys. Thank you so much to everyone for tuning into the stream. Thank you to the drivers as well for driving for us today and putting on a good show. Thank you as well to Pepsi for joining me in the commentary box once again. Tune in to League Racing TV this time next week for round 8 of the season. Be taking place in the EML Formula 1 Championship. Sure to be another great round this time next week. I believe we are at Monza, if I'm not mistaken, this time next week. So
Italy.
that is going to be another great round. Always great racing there. Obviously, the Division Championship Season 4 of TTML will be starting up this time next week. So tune into those rounds in a week's time. Division 1 will be taking place on Tuesday, 2 and 3 on Thursday, and 4 and 5 on Friday. They're all at 8 PM on their respective days. So look out for that next week. But that is where we're going to round off. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you in a week's time. Goodbye.